Mr. Speaker, I want the American people to know, with eyes wide open, what is inside this bill. Because we stand here just 2 days after President Trump gave unconditional pardons to violent criminals who attacked our nation's capital on January 6th. And these are the people who want you to believe, who want us to believe that they're trying to, quote unquote, keep criminals off the streets. When they are opening the floodgates. I want the American people to know what is in this bill. Because in the guise and in the wake of tragedy, we are seeing a fundamental erosion of our civil rights. In this bill,
AOC tried to make her case that the bill, in her view, could lead to serious consequences for civil liberties, especially for undocumented immigrants, including so-called dreamers, who were brought to this country as children. Her fear is that under this legislation, someone could be accused of a crime, not convicted, and still be detained, deported, and denied a fair hearing.
If a person is so much as accused of a crime, if someone wants to point a finger and accuse someone of shoplifting, they will be rounded up and put into a private detention camp and sent out for deportation without a day in court, without a moment to assert their right and without a moment to assert the privilege of innocent until proven guilty. Without being found guilty of a crime, they will be rounded up. That is what is inside this bill, a fundamental suspension of a core American value. And that is why I rise to oppose it. If you're a dreamer, all someone has to do is point a finger and you will be rounded up. And we have seen moments like these happen before. In the Patriot Act, in the wake of the travesty of 9/11, a fundamental suspension of American civil liberty.
But let's be clear, no one's advocating for the government to go rogue and detain innocent people. That's not what this bill does. But AOC conveniently ignores one thing: the law. These people she's defending are not U.S. citizens. They are not above immigration enforcement. And if you're here illegally, and especially if you're committing crimes on top of that, sorry, you don't get a free pass to stay here.
That is what we are seeing here today. Mr. Speaker, you may wonder why so many of our friends across the aisle who care so deeply about the rule of law happen to be so desperate to pass this bill, after they are unleashing people who attacked police officers here on this Capitol into roaming our streets, who are publicly saying now they want to get a gun. Suddenly, these folks care about public safety? I don't think so. Look no further than the price tag of this bill, $83 billion. They know that it can't be paid for. They know that the capacity is not there. And you know what will be there? Private prison companies are going to get flooded with money, who give this money, no doubt. I want folks at home to look. Look at what members of Congress are invested in private prison companies who receive this kind of money, and look at the votes on this bill. It is atrocious.
Here. She even goes as far as calling the bill, and I quote, a fundamental erosion of our civil rights. She brings up the January 6th pardons. Why? What does that have to do with border enforcement? Nothing, except it sounds like her throwing out red meat to her base and pretend that everyone on the right is a threat to democracy.
That people are lining their pockets with private prison profits in the name of a horrific tragedy and the victim of a crime. It is shameful. It is absolutely shameful. And Mr. Speaker, I'll conclude with this. In a few months, there are members of Congress who voted for this bill who are going to pretend they didn't know about all the bad things that are going to happen because of it. So when a private prison camp opens in your town, when a dreamer...
Time has expired. I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
So when a private prison camp opens in your town and they say, we didn't know this was going to happen, know that they did, and they voted for it.
She also raised questions about private prisons potentially profiting from increased detention, and urged the public to look into which lawmakers are invested in these companies. Again, her critics might say that's overly conspiratorial, but accountability in government is always worth discussing.
When a dreamer is disappeared from your classroom, when the President of the United States destroys what is left of the Constitution as he's announced in this attack on birthright citizenship, They will all say we didn't know this was coming. And I want the American people to know that they did. This vote represents it. And with that, I yield back. Thank you very much.
Well, I certainly hope we do open as many prisons as possible to round up as many illegal aliens that have invaded our country and those that are breaking our laws, killing our citizens, women and children, and causing complete havoc across our great land. I support the Laken Riley Act, and I support the Laken Riley Act because Laken Riley should be alive today. And she would be alive today if it hadn't been for the Democrats and the Biden administration that ripped our border open and allowed this illegal alien monster to come into our country. And then in the state of New York, when this monster was arrested for committing crimes, the Democrat state of New York let him go.
Then Marjorie Taylor Greene responded, and she came at it from a completely different angle. For her, this bill is about one thing: justice. Justice for victims like Laken Riley, a young woman who was murdered, allegedly by someone who was in this country illegally and had been released after committing crimes in another state.
And that's how he came down to Georgia and murdered our Laken Riley. This is a bill that cannot get passed enough, and I'm so thankful that the American people overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump so that we can sign this bill into law, and it can't happen fast enough. Thank God. But listening to my colleagues, the Democrats on the other side of the aisle, complain and whine and defend illegal aliens that break the law the minute they cross our border is pathetic. The American people are so sick and tired of it. They cannot believe what our country has gone through. And it is enough. It is absolutely enough. But they will go on to defend anyone that is not American because of their America Last policies. You talk about tax dollars used. Our tax dollars should be used defending Americans.
There's a clear emotional core to her argument. Someone died who didn't have to. And in her mind, this isn't about politics. It's about doing what's necessary to prevent future tragedies.
And you want to talk about spending a lot of money? Spending a lot of money should happen for American causes, American purposes, and American security. Laken Riley is a young woman who should be living her American dream, and she had the right to do it. But people that come across our border illegally are not Americans, and they do not have rights here. And that is exactly why anytime they break a law, anytime they cross into our country, they should be rounded up and shipped out as fast as possible. And if we need to build more prisons, then we'll do it.
And one of the things that I have been seeing over and over again on social media already, Mr. Chair, is literally militarization of Border Patrol, officials everywhere, just people scared and petrified because that's what's exactly happening, because this promotes racial profiling. The bill blatantly violates due process. I mean, these are literally being allegations and charges, not actual convictions. Y'all act like if somebody's undocumented, they can't be deported. They can. As a former immigration attorney, I know that for a fact. You're making this up so you can literally allow people to be profiled and discriminated against. Blame them for the cost of eggs? Is that what we're doing here? We're blaming them because you guys can't get corporate greed on a side that is a disease that is killing our economy? People can't afford housing? You think it's because of our immigrant neighbors? No. If you cared truly about fixing our immigration system, you'd go fix it so that U.S. citizens married to undocumented spouses can actually adjust their status, where we have mixed statuses because for 30 years we've ignored and vilified immigrants. Enough is enough. It will separate families. It would lead again to continued discrimination. It's shameful that my colleagues are giving in to racist fear-mongering at the first opportunity to pass legislation to scapegoat our immigrant neighbors and fuel hate in our communities. I know what's going to happen. It won't just be undocumented. It'll be people like my mother who will get stopped and profiled. She have to carry her U.S. passport around? Are we asking people now to have documentation? That's what you want to turn our neighborhoods into, is militarization?
I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
The gentlelady is recognized.
I just ask all of you to truly understand what this will do to our communities. I urge our colleagues to please vote no on this divisive bill. And it's so important to understand what you're going to turn our communities and our neighborhoods into. We can't allow that to continue to happen.
So, what's really at the heart of this debate? On one side, you have lawmakers warning against rushing through legislation that could erode fundamental rights. On the other, you have lawmakers demanding swift action in the name of justice and public safety. Honestly, this is one of those moments where both sides are speaking to real values, and both sides reflect legitimate concerns. Public safety matters. When someone commits violent crimes and immigration enforcement fails, people understandably get angry and demand action. But so do due process and constitutional protections. America has a long history of learning, sometimes the hard way, that reactionary policies, even when well-intentioned, can go too far. We need to get past the shouting and posturing. When one side accuses the other of wanting open borders or not caring about immigrants, it shuts down real conversation. And when the other side suggests any push for enforcement is inherently racist or authoritarian, it does the same thing. Let me know in the comments. And as always, if you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs a little less noise and a little more perspective. Thanks for watching. Stay thoughtful, stay informed, and stay engaged.